Knights of Asteria!
Daybreak 2 is the 12th game in the Trail series, and also the one that seems to be one of the most decisive titles in the fanbase. Even upon checking out reviews from critics and fans alike, this one isn't hailed as the second coming of Christ, even amongst the most diehard fans of the series. I myself have finally played and beaten it, and have thoughts of my own that I'll be sharing, but first let's just take a little look at why it's rated so different in the community and also the critics. Surprisingly, the critics are not as bad. With the rating of 77% on Metacritic, you can say that it falls more in the positive or favorable side of things. But user score, it's 5.2. Now, I don't put much stock in the user score because, let's be real, a lot of people could just review bomb or not even play the game. But the fact that this series has mostly great reviews from fans is telling. Like last year's Daybreak has an 84% with critics and 74% with users. And that's a huge difference for both critics and users. But putting aside scores and numbers, most comments that I come across on, say, Reddit or YouTube also display a dislike for this game that I really haven't seen that much for this series. I think it comes down to the fact that, like Cold Steel 4, this game might have very heavy storytelling issues, and some of the other games in the series don't have that same issue, making these two titles stand out the most when it comes to that. But now you're wondering, is it really that bad? Well, I do have some good news for you. It's not the worst in the series for me. I'm so sorry, Cold Steel 2 and 4. You guys just pissed me off way too much. But we gotta talk about how my personal game of last year, Daybreak 1, and then we gotta talk about this, which is such a huge disappointment drop with this title. So, I always like to cover the positives first, so let me talk about what I really did like about this game. So Daybreak 2 picks up pretty soon after the first one. Van is back at it, investigating and being a Spriggan. And this time we have returning characters from the Cold Steel series with S and Nadia. These two are really cute, lovable characters who had it rough growing up, but they stick together and they become kind of this like awesome couple team. I really just think they bring a lot of the humor in the series for me, and easily the highlight of this game for me. However, the opening is mostly focused on Elaine, and that's Van's obvious love interest and childhood friend, and they investigate, and I don't want to spoil things, but they run into a very big problem very early on in this game. And that's how we begin the game, which I have to say is great. The whole opening setup, the first big whoa moment, and all of that worked very effective for me. I was strapped in and ready to go thanks to not being spoiled about this title at all. The idea of basically do-overs in a sense, without spoiling too much here, could be a great idea. And the opening, and I gotta say the first couple of acts, the first two acts in this game, really worked for me. And as always, we do get some great character moments and growth in this game. Van feels a little left out, which makes me a little bit sad, but I love the stuff that we get with S and Nadia. God, I can't say her name. I am the worst. I am sorry if you haven't watched my channel. I can't pronounce things. I'm trying here. So I might fuck up this name too, but we also get some good moments with Ferry and also Aaron. So we get a lot of great moments, as well as my crazy psycho bitch returning, the silver-haired divine blade user herself. Also what returned was the hybrid battle system, starting off with this action combat, and then you could jump into turn-based all in one nice clean swoop. It returns even better here. It's far more flexible. It feels like an actual battle system when it comes to the action part of it. You can switch out characters to do massive damage. You can even use magic on the field to do damage to enemies. All of this made the combat flow even better than before, and then the turn-based is still so fun. It's so clean. It looks great. Well, I say clean, but the UI is a little clunky and it's in your face, but it still flows great is what I'm trying to say. This is easily the best combat system in the entire series for me. That's hands down. That's not even an argument if you ask me personally. I also have to say that I feel this game is more cinematic than the last. At least in some shots we get these fully animated movements that look great, and I'm hoping in future titles we get more of this because they were absolutely some of my favorite moments in this game. On top of that, we do get more voice acting, or at least it feels like that. Maybe it's because the pacing of the story moves quicker, especially in the first half, making it feel more cinematic and not so much dead air where you're just reading instead of hearing the characters talk. I don't know if it's just me, but I felt like it was a lot more in this game. And I'm going to close out my goods with the first half of this game, or I should say the prologue, Act 1 and Act 2, I really enjoyed. It felt fun, it felt fast-paced, it was interesting, even Fragments, which comes right after Chapter 2. It's good, or Act 2, sorry. It started off really good, and then the second half not so much, which is what we're going to get into my negatives right off the bat. The pacing. What a chore this one becomes in the second half of Fragments, and then, Jesus Christ, the third act. Redoing storylines in the most non-entertaining way. Things go haywire. Characters acting, I'm going to be blunt here, fucking stupid, leading to resetting timelines. It just felt really goddamn annoying how many times we had to go through the same fucking act with similar results, and then feeling like we end up back to point A. I mean, Jesus, this is so long. Just in total, Act 3 was a freaking slog to get through, and by far the longest chapter in the game, making you want it to just end, get to the last dungeon, which I really feared, because one of my big problems with the series is the last dungeons usually takes too long, in my opinion. In this game, the last dungeon's so short, or maybe I was just fucking brainwashed from Act 3 being so long, but oh my god, it never wanted to end. And then there's the story. Listen, I love the Trail series, but every once in a while we get this, or like Cold Steel 4, and let me just tell you, I am so friggin' done with mind control and fucking masked characters whose identity are either so obvious or the reveal is so underwhelming, and in this game just outright silly. I can't friggin' stand it. The story just shifts into this boring category in Act 3 where some cutscenes I was literally phasing in and out trying not to fall asleep, which is not a good sign. The last game, or the only other game in this series that made me do that, was Cold Steel 4. And this is what happens when you write something and stretch it out to the point of boring your fandom instead of making it snappy or even just a shorter, better paced game with a better story. Listen, Trails, you can be shorter. It's okay. Not every single game has to be 80 plus hours. Just doesn't. The side quests felt very flat to me this time. There's one or two good ones surrounded by a bunch of bad ones. Now, this wouldn't be a big issue, because who doesn't love catching a gigantic goldfish and wasting my freaking time running around this damn city to deliver shit? But in Daybreak 1, we had a bunch of great side quests. Some bad, but some great. And here I can name maybe one or two good ones, and then just a ton of forgettable ones. To the point, I would read descriptions in Act 3 and see if they were even worth my time. And I actually skipped a few in Act 3, which I never skip in these games, so that's not a good sign. So between the story and the pacing fizzling out in the end, and the side quest being uninspiring, the twist being, well, I gotta be honest, kind of dumb and a bit cheap, even though I get it, they were trying to do some closure with certain characters. The very last cutscene of this game is actually cute, but it also just feels like this adventure is filler. And I hate that word filler, because character moments can be the most important thing in video games, or any media, and we do get a few great character moments, but I also feel like we have, I don't know, half of the cutscenes or half of the scenes in this game just could have been cut. And we get the same great moments, and we just cut a lot of the dull shit in between. See, my biggest point is this feels like a half-cooked product. And while I dislike Cold Steel 2 for various reasons, and even 4, I wouldn't say either of those feel half-cooked, just overly cooked, to the point that they taste like burnt bread smeared with peanut butter and dog shit. But this game has more positives than both of those for me. So I enjoy the combat quite a bit, but the overall story is so frustrating. And a big reason why I play these games is the story, and I can't help but being extremely disappointed with the story in this game and the pacing. I would rate it around a 6 or a 6.5. But what about you guys? Did you love this one, and am I just talking out of my ass and I don't know what I'm talking about? Did you hate this title? Or did you feel like me and you're disappointed, but not the worst thing ever? State it below and let me know what you guys think, and I will see you on my next nerdy video. Stick around and subscribe. Have a good one, guys.